So tonight it's a great deal of pleasure for me to introduce a young man that came to work with us in drug court, to be a participant in drug court. He worked with Claudia. Claudia, take a wave. My counterpart, I always like to recognize her when she's here. She's the reason I can do the job that I do, because she keeps me on track at work, and she's sitting beside my wife who keeps me on track at home. So anyway, Nick came to us broken, maybe without a lot of hope, and he was looking at serving a bit of time in jail for some of the offenses that he had committed. He delved into recovery in a big way. He worked hard. He butted heads with Claudia quite a bit, but then finally he jumped over the broom handle and he surrendered, right? Big thing to do is surrender. He has changed his life. He's changed the life of his family who are sitting here with him tonight. He's got his sons back with him. He's with a wonderful lady, and life is going pretty good for Nick. And Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm an alcoholic addict. But tell you a little bit about myself. Like Pete was saying, I'm a member of the drug court program. I graduated that, when was that, January? I was born into an alcoholic family, so it just comes in traits, alcoholic addiction. It was always around me. I thought it was okay, and I thought that was gonna get me through my life, right? It always seemed that was the social aspect to go to, right? But as much fun as I thought it was, I found out at an early age, right, that my family was alcoholics. And I started using when I was about 11 years old, right? Actually, the first time I ever used heavy narcotics, I was 11 years old as well, right, trying to fit in with my cousins. So I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was out camping with my family, and it went from cigarettes to pot to beer to cocaine, all within a day, at 11 years old, right? So, but the feeling that it gave me, it felt like this is who I am, right? This is going to make me accepted, right? So it gave me that positive feeling, I guess you'd say. So throughout my life, moving forward through that, I never stuck to the cocaine right away, right? It was just something that I could do with my family, right? But I struggled in school a lot. I was bullied. I was picked on. I was shoved in lockers, right? I never had a relationship. So I always wanted to fit in, right? Find an easier, softer way to deal with my life. My parents, I guess you'd say they were enablers, so it didn't really matter, right? What I needed, they would just give it to me. And it didn't matter what I stole from them, they'd give it to me again. And so my drinking just progressed through the years, drinking on the weekends, after school, whatnot, but I was a daily drinker from the time I was 11 years old. Right? It just slowly progressed. The story doesn't really get too much further there. Like when I was 16, I started using narcotics. Like heavy hallucinogens. I was big into the acid scene. And I thought it was getting me through, right? I thought my marks were getting better in school. I thought that people were liking me more, right? But I was always the life of a party, but I was never a success in school, through work, and it always just, a vicious cycle just kept continuing. Right? I think I was about 17 the first time I overdosed on ecstasy. Right? But at that point, I was on my own when I was 13. Sorry if this story's going all over the place, guys. But yeah, I've been on my own since I was 13. I moved out of my parents' house, right? When I was 17 was the first time I overdosed on ecstasy. And I didn't have my parents there. I didn't have friends there that would actually take care of me. Right? I to this day don't know how I pulled through it, but I pulled through it, and I woke up on somebody's lawn. Right? And it was terrifying. The thing that I thought made me sociably acceptable in my life, the thing that I thought that made me have friends in my life, made me alone, right? But there was moments like that periodically through my disease that I would see that I was alone, but when I was okay again and I was drinking, I was smoking, I was using with my friends, they were there. It's when shit got real that they weren't there anymore, right? It was pretty dark. And I moved through life going that way, right? I was never healthy, never took care of my body, right? Shortly after my overdose, I started hanging out with another bunch of friends, and we started stealing cars, right? And I thought that I would fit in with these guys, right? They didn't use as much, right? But yeah, we know that crowd starts using, right? You know, I got picked up when I was, I don't know, it was probably my 5th or 6th car that I stole. I got picked up. And probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, my parents got a phone call to come pick me up from the buckets. You know, and they came down there. I was looking at being charged. Didn't matter. I had a stolen car. They had another stolen car they found on the road that was mine. And I don't know how, but that higher power that I never knew was there must have been looking out for me, because I walked out of those jail cells with a ticket, right? Didn't get charged, continued on my way, right? So that, again, it just brings back to the more that I thought it was more acceptable, right? I could get away with things, right? And I'll jump back a little ways here. The first time I was ever charged, I was 13 years old, right? Just a little older than my son here now, okay? This just leads to where I thought everything, I was just going to get away with everything, because I was 13 years old and I held a knife to a kid's throat, right? Armed robbery at 13. Right? I went downtown with that one, but again, I got let go. They dropped it down to a theft under charge with 5 hours community service. Right? I can walk away. But my whole life was like that, right? And back up to my stolen cars, you know? Just getting away with it. I got a ticket. When I walked out of those cells with my parents, my dad never gave me shit. Hey? He was more mad that he woke me up. Or that I woke him up. You know, but we walked out of those cells, I looked down on the ground, there was a wallet right there. Full of the money to pay my ticket. I got away with it again. You know? When I was about 19 years old, my wife at the time, she got pregnant with my oldest here. And I thought, I'm going to change my life. And I did, I guess. I went to work, went and got a class 1. I dropped out of school, because I was going to get my apprenticeship in mechanics, but I dropped out, got my class 1, so I could support my family. And I was drinking through the whole time still, I never stopped. But things were good for a little while there. And then my son was born. And for some reason, when my son was born, I thought it was party time again. Right? Instead of being a dad, I thought it was party time again. I started using the cocaine again with my wife. And it was hard. Right? Now I look back at it, and I was not the dad that I was supposed to be, right? So about 3 years of that went on. He had a pretty decent life, thanks to my parents that weren't there when I was a kid. But they helped out a lot with him. And I kept partying until he was about 3 years old. I got picked up. The cops came for domestic assault. I was hammered. And I'm not going to get into the particulars because of that, because my son's here. But, you know, I got picked up on a domestic. And again, I got away with it, you know. I got a slap on the wrist, a couple hours community service, a year probation. Never had to pay a price. I never had to go to a program. Nobody looked at my disease. Nobody looked at me, right? I was just another number. I got away with it. Didn't even see a day in jail. So it fed my ego. It fed who I thought that I could be. It just built this world that I was invincible. So pushing through that, I got in another relationship. It was toxic. It was scary. Right? But I didn't use like I used to use. I just used on the weekends. I was a full-time truck driver. Went on the highway. When I was away on the highway, I figured I'd use because my kids weren't around, right, to keep me awake. I'd run for days and not even know that I did it. But I got the job done, right? Come home and I was a dad. But that was only for a short time until, what year was that? That was probably 2011. So we'll fast forward a bit of that hell there into 2015. And with this girl, we had 6 miscarriages and 1 stillborn. When my daughter passed away, I kind of lost my marbles. That was the first time I ever used methamphetamines. And, you know, and today, through drug court, I was finally able to go to counseling and start learning how to deal with this, right? Now I'm 22 months sober, I'm dealing with my daughter, right? By no means is it easy, right? But I'm dealing with it today. But at that point, that's when I started using meth. And I still tried to work. I still tried to continue my family, but that only lasted for a couple years, not even a couple months maybe, until I lost my job, tapped out every resource I had. And I pulled my wits together for a little bit, got back together with my girlfriend at the time, and I continued working, drinking, but I managed somehow to quit the meth. I don't know how I did it, but I did for a little bit. And then my little man was born here. When my little man was born, you know, it was a lot like when my older son was born. I didn't know what I was doing, and it's kind of like it was party time again. And my girlfriend at the time, she was heavily addicted to pills the whole time that I was in the relationship. She's like, well, I want to do something, right? We're celebrating here. And I never put 2 and 2 together, but you know, we went from going to pick up some rock to going to pick up some meth. And it just was that vicious cycle from that one day. And I seen it all happen again. I started losing my kids, but it didn't affect me. Losing all my family didn't affect me. Lost my job, didn't affect me. The thing that affected me was the person that was feeding my addiction, the person that I wanted to use with. When I lost her, I thought it was the end of the world. But I still, in the back of my head, I didn't realize that I lost all my kids. I lost my job. I was homeless. And began my first time I ever got arrested and went to jail. I went into jail, scared, broken, 120 pounds. Didn't know what the hell I was doing with all these big fuckers. They're all huge. Right? Scared the shit out of me in there. But I had to fit in. Right? So I found a way that I could fit in, right? By my using. Right? So throughout that year, I was in and out of jail 15 times, 10, 15 times. Not knowing what I had on the outside, what I didn't have on the outside. I just knew that I had a click in there. Right? These people respected me, right? I thought that I was building a new family, I was going to be okay. And my addiction got so bad that I was probably 120 pounds. I'm normally about 200 pounds, I'm a big guy. I didn't see the pain that I was causing. I'd get to see my kids, I'd get out. And I'd call my dad, tell him I'm getting out. He'd say, okay, well, you can come see your son for a little bit. 4 days later, I would finally call him and tell him I'm out to go see my son. Okay. My oldest son, I didn't get to see him for about 7 years. Okay. It was hard. But I thought it was okay. Life was okay. It was September 2016. I took a different road this time. I got out of jail. Every time you get out, you know, you're like, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to do it this time, right? But you only make it out the parking lot. I had that in my head somehow. I remember Miss Shaw talking to me before I left. She's one of the guards there. She's like, it's all up to you which way you go. And when I walked out and got on the phone and called family, and family came. And I went and seen my son. I seen my son within a half an hour being released from those doors. And it just felt different. Life felt different. And September 20th, 2016 was the last time I was in prison, right? Last time I was in those cells. From there, I started working on my life. And I got my girlfriend back here. And I met her when I was 11 years old. And I started changing my life. I got a good family back. I could see something was going different. I just didn't know what it was. And I started going to church when I was out. I'm like, I need to do this. The biggest thing I did, though, was I removed all the negative people in my life. Right? I didn't, those jail phone books, I didn't pick up the phone and call any of them. I threw the books out. Right? I went a different way that time. I stayed with my son as close as I could. My parents were still pretty iffy. Right? They didn't want to trust me. Right? It was hard. But I worked my way up. It was about December. I still stayed sober that time. It was about December. I got a call from drug court to go and do an intake or a viewing of the court or whatever it is, I can't remember. I went and did it. I thought, oh, I'm better than all these guys. I don't need this stuff, right? My ego was through the roof. Like, I already got 6 months sober. I don't need this. But this is the only way it's going to keep me out of jail. So I did it, right? They told me it was going to be about January I'd be accepted. So I'd have to stay sober through the holidays. I've never done that before. And I did this on my own. So, like, thank God for having my family with me. We went out and we stayed close. I was able to stay sober. And I was able to keep my wits about me. It wasn't easy, but I did it. And January 5th, I was admitted into the Calgary Drug Treatment Court, and I was also admitted into Simon House. And through then, like I said, I had a big ego. My head was, it was big. But I went in there willingly, and I went in there with a want to change on my own terms. And I'm very grateful that I got the case manager that I did, because she worked with me. Right? You know, she worked with me hard, and she never gave up like everybody else did on me. Right? But that, in my sobriety, I'm finding is that's friends. Right? Those people that you can trust, people that don't give up on you. When times get tough, they stick with you. And she did that. There was some times I almost lost my housing. Almost. Right? Because I was trying to find a higher power that wasn't a higher power. I was trying to make my girlfriend my higher power, my kids my higher power. Right? And she saw right through it. Didn't matter what I said, I was wrong. And it was right. So I accepted that. And right around then, that's when I was doing my step 4 in the house. I mean, I always had a believing of God. Right? My step 1, I knew I was fucked. I was sleeping in other people's cars and stealing them. I knew I was fucked, right? I was using drugs every day. My step 2 and my step 3, I've always had that belief. But like I said, it was different when I got to do it. I got to do my step 1 with a very strict lady. But she was a good lady. And she just made me realize that if I have a solid higher power, it's going to make this easier on me. And it doesn't matter what yours is, what yours is, what yours is. What mine is what mine is, and that's what gets me through today. Okay? But when I started doing my step 4, I think finding my connection to my higher power made me understand that I could surrender, made me understand that I could put my will into people's hands that I didn't know. Right? Take my guard down, put my ego at my side. Okay? And once I was able to hand over that will, in a sense, I guess I was handing over my will to a higher power. And at that point, I think that's when things started to change. I surrendered. I moved forward in my life. I gave everything to drug court. When they asked me to jump, I said, how high? Right? I did whatever I had to do. And at this point, I had my youngest son living with me. I was living with my girlfriend here. Things were starting to get better. I was seeing this. Right? It was a slow progression. You know, and as I went through the program, by no means it was easy. Right? By no means. But I reported every single week, and I was compliant. And I fought things that I didn't understand, but I was able to go and talk about them too, so they could shed more light on it for me. I never pushed past the limit, I guess you'd say. She might say different, but you know. So my journey through drug court was good. I went through it compliant. It was about 8 months in the program, something like that. They found out that the charges that I was accepted into the program on were going to be withdrawn. The drugs that they found in the vehicle were no longer drugs. Okay, so I was looking at a 36-month sentence, and how they had no evidence on me. I could have turned around and walked with a slap on the wrist again. Okay, the way my life always goes. Do whatever I wanted to do, right? Continue on that path of destruction. And I could have went with the knowledge that I had and been somewhere in life maybe, but I decided to stay in a program that's tough, that not a lot of people make it through. And I completed that program on my own, with my own will, and nobody held me there. So it was 13 months in the program, I believe it was, right? 13 months I did in the program. I graduated, went on an optional probation, and I continue to stay connected with the program every single day. I go to meetings that if I would have opted out, I wouldn't have to go to these meetings. I wouldn't have had to go to jail. I would have got that slap on my wrist again. But today I choose this. I talk to my case manager every freaking week, as many times as I can. I move forward. Because the man that I am today, I never was before. And I was a scared little boy who looked like a big guy. You know? But today, I have both my boys living with me. Okay? My oldest son I didn't get to see for 7 years. And he decided to make the decision to come live with me. And he's seen my addiction. He's seen that pain. And he lives with me today because of who I am. Okay? My youngest son, thank God he didn't get to see a lot of it, but he lives with me. And he's happy. But I can be a dad now. I didn't go on the highway to work. I didn't run away. I get to be a dad. I get to work my program. I get to be a person today. I get to feel things. Okay? No addict wants to feel things. Okay? This is hard. I'm feeling shit, you know? But I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the man I am today. It's a long journey, and it ain't over. But I'm doing it today by choice. And I'm not doing it because a court made me to, because a judge made me to. I'm doing it because I want to. And like I said, today I'm 22 months. So I'm coming up on that 2 years, and yeah, it's scary. Okay? Here in the program, everybody's like, yeah, this guy went out, yep, that guy went out. Should have gone to 6 funerals this year already. Right? People that wanted to change. But I'm scared shitless of relapse every single day. Terrified of it. My boys are terrified of it. But I wake up in the morning and I hug my boys. I go to work. I come home. I hug my boys. I move forward in my life. And as though I'm scared of my relapse, I'm scared of that relapse. I know it didn't happen today. I got another 24 hours, and that's it. So, thanks, guys.
We don't like to use the term transformations loosely around here, but you know what? Your transformed life. When Nick talks about he could have walked away. He could have walked away from drug court when they found out that the drugs they charged him with were not drugs. It was Tylenol or something he was allowed to have. he could have walked away, and he said, I think Claudia had a lot to do with it, but he said, I'm not going to. I'm going to stay, and I'm going to complete this program, and I'm going to graduate this program, and I'm going to be successful with it. And you've done nothing but be successful. So proud of you, proud of Nicole, proud of your boys, and proud that you're a family back together and doing all the right things. So thank you for sharing tonight. You shared from your heart, and it was awesome. So just keep up the good work. Yeah?